come here, listen. If Peaches doesn't win Best Song next year at the Oscars, I will find every member of the Academy and make them pay.
Alright, so the Mario movie is out currently. If you haven't seen it yet, this is going to be a spoiler review recap for you guys. So if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. If not, then you're going to get spoiled and that's on you. Okay, so some congratulations are due for the movie because it has recently opened as the biggest grossing film of all time. Animated, sorry, not of all time. Animated film of all time. So despite how you may feel, this movie was a success, okay? And let me preface this by saying, before we get into it, that I am not the biggest Mario fan or Nintendo fanboy. I grew up PlayStation and Sony, so I'm not like the biggest one when it comes to that. So I wasn't like some of you guys who saw the movie who were like, this is not right, they didn't get this right, they didn't get that right. No, that wasn't me. I was going in as the casual enjoyer of the Mario franchise and characters based through what I've seen through, Smash Brothers and Mario Kart and a little bit of the standalone games like Odyssey and 64. So take that with a grain of salt, I guess, as a person who's not the biggest fan of the character himself. But as just an enjoyer of movies, I had a good time. I thought it was a perfectly fine film. I knew going into the film that it was kind of divisive, I guess, at least within the critics and the fans, because if you looked at the Rotten Tomatoes ratings, it was like 50% ratings from the viewers of the critics, sorry, and then a 98% rating for the fans who saw it. So there's the audience score versus the critic score. It's always a big debate. Which one do you lean for? Which one should you believe more? I tend to usually believe kind of the critics because like they know what they're talking about, but this one, the opposite happened, and I guess I kind of feel the same about most animated films that come out. For some reason, they kind of shade a lot of them because they don't still view them as a certain form of cinema. I don't know, at this point, I think we all agree that animation is cinema. There's been so many movies that have come out that have been great that are animated. I think it should just be looked at normally as a regular film. But going into it, I wanted to see it because as long as the animation looks good, I feel like I always want to see the film. And the previews that we'd gotten for this, all the animation looked top notch, and you kind of expect that, I guess, from Illumination, whether or not you like their movies. I'm kind of like hit or miss with them. I feel like they were nailing it from the previews alone, and when you go and see this, if you haven't seen it already, I feel like the animation was top notch. I'm very much into like if they can capture the world around them, and not so much the characters, they're fine. But if you can capture like a background of characters or like the backdrop that you see, the scenes, I'm gonna be drawn into it more. I'm gonna want to spend more time there. And I felt like I got both of that from New York, Brooklyn setting and the inside the Mario world setting. I feel like it captured it well, and you want to feel like you're in there and you want to stay in that that world of characters. And that was a standout for me. And so right away that gave a positive baseline for the movie for me, is that if this movie is bad, before I finish it, as long as the animation stays top notch, I'll be interested. And I was interested throughout. The characters themselves, I mentioned it a second ago, I feel like they did nail the designs of them. None of them I had any qualms with. I know for some reason it's a thing on the internet that people aren't liking it because Peach and the way she acts too girl boss, as they say. And I'm like, I don't understand. She's always been kind of like that. I guess they just want a character who's just gonna get rescued and not do anything, which is kind of ridiculous. But I think they nailed her character pretty well. They gave her more depth. They made her more interesting and made me want to actually care for her story. If she was just a princess who was like, oh, I need saving, I'm gonna be like, she's whatever, we don't care. But no, they took the extra step to give her some sort of depth, and that I appreciated that a lot. Mario and Luigi, though, themselves, Chris Pratt, hey, he nailed it. I know going into it, people were kind of nervous about him not nailing the voice, but I feel like he did do a good job. And I like the explanation that they gave. He did the voice in a commercial to play up to that stereotype of, the Italian plumber man or whatever, but then when he's talking, he's just normal. They say, hell yeah, that's kind of exhausting to keep doing that voice. We shouldn't overdo it. And Luigi, Charlie Day, he did a good job. I mean, Luigi, he's always been kind of like a fumbling buffoon type, and Charlie Day plays that very well. And their dynamic together worked really well. The brothers, the through line of them, of Mario needing to save Luigi, and that was his whole motivation. That came through very well for me too. Their connection didn't feel forced to me, because sometimes it does feel a little bit the whole oh, I lost my daughter, I gotta go save her type, and you don't really connect with their relationship. Like, for example, with Dungeons and Dragons, I just saw that recently. I didn't connect completely with that save my daughter thing because I feel like they didn't have that connection. But with Mario and Luigi, they had the connection. They established it from the beginning, how close they were, and I appreciated that. Toad, one of my favorites whenever I play Mario Kart. I do main Toad, so Key did a good job. I didn't have any complaints with him. He was a cool character. He was very brave, which I guess he is. I guess I never really thought about it that way, and it was funny to see them kind of like expand upon that. Like all the other Toads that live in the Toad Kingdom are just like whatever, but he stands out because he's willing to, you know, go out on the adventure with them and put his life on the line for the queen, or princess, sorry. And Bowser was a standout, of course. Jack Black, seeing the interview, it seems like he was the only one who kind of like went for it, I guess, and it shows. His performance was great. Like I mentioned in the beginning, his song that he sings in those Peaches, fantastic, 10 out of 10. It made you kind of realize, like, hey, all he really wants is love. He's just misunderstood. You know, his approach to getting his love is not the best. Needs working on it, but it was funny to see, like, hey, you can kind of like relate a little bit, like, oh, he just wants to be loved, and someone comes along and ruins it. It kind of reminds you of like the Karate Kid. It's like, you know, Billy Zabka's character, he was like in love with this girl, and out of nowhere, here comes Daniel LaRusso to steal her, and it's just like the same thing. Like out of nowhere, Mario comes, and like in a week's time, he impressed her. Like I've been trying so hard. So you do feel for Bowser in this movie. He was great. I did enjoy him as a villain, but we can expect that from Jack Black because like he killed it as Poe and Kung Fu Panda. So why would he not kill it as Bowser? Any other characters that I cared about that were cool? Oh, Seth Rogen, just being Seth Rogen. I mean, it went over pretty well. I didn't mind it at all. Fred Armisen played the father of Donkey Kong. He was cool. And that was pretty much like it as far as like performances go, I think. I don't think anything else was too crazy or ruined it for me. The original voice of Mario was in there. That was a cool Easter egg. I guess the Easter eggs, going into that topic, a lot of the Easter eggs that we got, I thought they were cool. They were earned. They weren't like super forced. I liked Luigi's ringtone being like the GameCube opening, seeing the Jumpman cabinet. That was cool. The Yoshi's running around before we got the, you know, the teaser of Yoshi at the end, seeing them, and oh, like Diddy Kong's there, Dixie Kong, all those little Easter eggs they threw into it. If like you are a fan of the Mario universe and Nintendo World universe, you would see it and be like, oh, I like that, I like that. So they had everything for everybody. So even like the kids can see like just the face value stuff, but then like the people who grew up with it are like, oh, I can see this and this, and it kept like everybody interested. It kept your eyes like always looking for something and listening for things. And again, going into the world building aspect of it, I like how they showed the Donkey Kong country, as well as, you know, the Toad's kingdom and all that stuff. It could show you that we can get more, you know, exploration in the sequels, other worlds that you might visit. Like we didn't get much of like, what is it, like level 2, like the underworld level in the Mario universe. The platforming that they did was pretty cool. You know, they did it a lot. They kind of did it more than I thought they would. The beginning opening scene, they do like a side scroll over them jumping to the city, and then like, you know, Mario's training sequence, and then as he's running through the city chasing Toad, you can kind of see a little bit of like the platforming aspects. So the game mechanics were there as well, so we did appreciate that. Like I said, the Donkey Kong world had the Mario Kart little sequence in it, which was nice. I didn't think they would go like that full out with it, but it was a nice touch. I enjoyed it. Rainbow Road, everybody hates or loves it. There was just so much that they shoved into the story, which I guess is kind of the biggest complaint that I would have, that I think a lot of people would have, is that they kind of rushed through a lot of it. I feel like they could have dragged out some of it for further sequels. Maybe they were kind of worried about like maybe we won't get another sequel, but yeah, that was like the biggest thing for me, is that some of it felt a little bit rushed, and that they spent time on parts that maybe they shouldn't have spent so much time on. I don't know. It was good though overall. The story was fine. I wasn't disappointed by really anything, and I wasn't like blown away by really anything. It was fine. It was a good movie. I enjoyed being there. I wasn't annoyed by it, which I think is a thing with Illumination, is that you're really gonna just like it, or you just will be really annoyed with it, you know, with their past movies. And if you're not annoyed by it, then you're like, okay, this is fine. Would I want to see it again? Probably, just because some of the scenes are fun to relive, but through and through, I feel like it was completely fine. It wasn't as bad as some people are making it out to be. I think they're dragging it. They're just trying to find ways to not have it continue, because people just want to keep their childhood nostalgia intact. They don't want people to touch it and ruin it. Even if it is a good adaptation of what they've seen in the past, they'll never admit it. They'll just be like, you know what, no, no matter what, I'm not gonna like it right out the gate. And I feel like that a lot of that came into play here with the movie and the reviews that it was getting. It wasn't like if you look back at it, what can you compare it to? The John Leguizamo live action movie? And I feel like this is better than that, even though as campy as that movie is kind of now, this did it better, and it was good enough to where I feel like I want to see more of it, which is, I think, the main thing of any movie. You want to do a good enough job, if you're not going to do amazing, that they want to kind of see more of it, and if they don't, they're going to hate it, which is what you don't want. So I feel like this just kind of hit that middle line of like, I'm still interested, I'll still watch the next one. It didn't go below that, like I don't want to see any more of it. No, I'm interested in the world. I want to see what they build up. They had some teasers, like I mentioned earlier, with the Yoshi egg at the end. So they're building up more characters and storylines, and I'd be interested to see where they can possibly go with the next one. And then like the other teaser we got was that Bowser's just in a cage now. We assume he's not going to be locked up there forever. Will he be the villain for the next one? I don't know. I'm curious to see what route they would go with that. We got a teaser for, you know, the little star that was in the cage with them when they were all locked up. That could maybe lead into like, you know, Rosalina possibly coming through. We got to get Daisy in there. I would be really interested in seeing a Luigi's Mansion movie if they do spin-offs, which I'm assuming they're going to now, seeing the success of this and Sonic and how much money they're making off of it. I think it would be a fun little movie because we kind of got a taste of it in the beginning when Luigi was running by himself away from all those the dry bones. They're chasing him. We could see that Charlie Day has the ability to capture that emotion of him being like scared and all that in the forest, and I think that'd be really fun because I've always preferred Luigi over Mario, me personally. So that'd be interesting to see a Donkey Kong movie they could possibly do if they want to. Another Mario storyline I'd want to see probably would be like, I don't know, like a Galaxy maybe. That'd be cool, but that might be further along the road. Odyssey would be cool. Get a little hat with some live action in it. I think that would be a cool next step. But yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go with this. But wherever they go, I'll watch it. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm interested in this, and I feel like it did a fine job. So I think overall for this movie itself, as a rating, I would give it a 7 out of 10. It was above average. Good enough to watch again, good enough to go with family. It hits all the notes for a family movie and family fun. You know, if you do hold your childhood dear and the memories of Mario, I feel like it does honor it enough to where you'd be into it. But if you're a diehard, maybe you might nitpick. So that's up to you if you want to see it. Don't expect it to cater exactly to your wants and needs as a fan. It's gonna do enough to please majority of audiences, okay? And that's just the best that you can hope for when it comes to animated movies and movies that are about, you know, childhood properties in general that bring you nostalgia. So that's my review. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys felt the same way. If you didn't feel the same way about the movie, that's fine. You can let me know down below what you think. And as always, go ahead and subscribe, follow. All that stuff is going to be down below. And yeah.